Hi, this is Bob Papa, voice of the New York Football Giants, and this is the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast in association with Andy's Man Club. Lads, remember, it is okay to talk. As you can see, this episode, we are 66% British, 33% Irish, but as always, 100% Giants. Unfortunately, the full barn has been closed and an escapee has got away, with Dan being unavailable due to work. However, I am joined by Kev and by Shane. Where we kind of have an all-encompassing episode tonight, looking at draft prospects from the Senior Bowl and then cherry-picking a few free agents from the PFF Top 100 free agents list. I guess you could argue that draft season begins now. Is that right?
I think the wording is the mobile starts in the draft starts in Mobile, Alabama.
There we go. And that's where we are, or well, we aren't, but that's where it starts this weekend.
Trust me.
we wish we were there. But obviously that starts this weekend. Going to get into the nitty gritty of your boys' favourite time of the year now. So how are we doing? Shane's muted himself and doesn't realise that he's on mute.
Rookie mistake. Here's a rookie mistake.
Should we just end it now and start again? Just pretend this never happened. The Senior Bowl kind of whets the appetite a little bit towards what's going to be coming up in terms of the draft. Obviously, you'll have the combine, the pro days as well. But then obviously before that, we've got free agency to look forward to and give us a bit of a better idea as to what players we're potentially eyeing up for the draft.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Senior Bowl is fantastic because there's so many players there this week. And me and Sheen have started our work a little bit the last couple of weeks or so. But, we're still looking at the big guys, the players that sort of like the draft experts recommend, the people that are high on the list. And this is a great opportunity to sort of first hear and first see some of the prospects that, let's face it, we need to make those day 2 and day 3 picks work for us going forward. So it's good to sort of start to get an idea of who stands out to us and who we will look to go and watch some more film of and read up a bit more on and try and sort of like understand of, who'll not only be there for us in day 1, but who'll be there for us in day 2 and 3 as well.
Yeah, I think with all the kind of excitement that we've had around getting the number 3 pick, which obviously we all wish was higher, but we know what happened. I think with all the excitement around that number 3 pick, we've kind of all been very laser focused on who's going to go there and haven't thought about the fact that we actually have multiple picks in the other rounds. We've potentially got 2 picks in round 3, maybe round 4, depending on what happens with that McKinney comp pick. So there's a lot of guys to look for that we haven't even really thought about as of yet. Now, before we begin, obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, X, Twitch, Facebook, all the places that we are, obviously, please do get involved in the comments. Give this video a like if you haven't already. Subscribe to us if you're not. And hit the notification bell to be notified of when we go live. Obviously, during the off-season, we run a Tuesday to Thursday kind of ship, and it can change week on week. So that notification bell can help just in case we decide to go early. Right, before we kind of get into the big bits of this week's episode, let's kind of have a look at the news. And there are 2, I'd say one big bit of news and one talking point, shall we say. So the first bit of news is Malik Neighbours, rookie sensation, has been called up to his first Pro Bowl roster after stepping in for the injured Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Lions. Now, Neighbours was originally named as an alternative. He now joins Dexter Lawrence, who probably won't be playing, as the only Giants to be named to the game this season. One interesting wrinkle just to kind of bear in mind with this is that according to SpotRack, Neighbours was named as an alternative and wasn't selected via ballot, which means it doesn't count towards his escalator when it comes to his fifth-year option. So it actually means that though he is on the Pro Bowl roster and will likely play and hopefully take part in the catch contest or something along those lines, it doesn't actually increase the amount that his fifth-year option is going to cost us yet. However, the way that he's played this year, I wouldn't rule this out being his only Pro Bowl appearance over the next 4 years. So we're likely to get a booster there anyway. But just an interesting thing. Obviously, that fifth-year option won't be available for the Giants till 2027. So there is plenty of time for Neighbours to get himself some more recognition there. And now the interesting one for me, the Kayvon Thibodeau and Des Bryant feud that kind of knocked up on X Sunday night. So obviously the Eagles.
You know what? I haven't actually seen much of this, because I've been so busy. So I'm actually really looking forward to getting into what was said and how it all went down.
Well, the Eagles and Saquon Barkley, obviously, I think the politest way to put it is bent the Commanders over and routed them completely on their way to the NFC title and obviously a spot in the Super Bowl. And it was par for the course that every person on X, Tom Brady, the other people on the broadcast, everyone had to, get the digs in around the Saquon Barkley being an ex-Giant and being let go. And the usual jabs just had to be thrown in Joe Shane and the Giants' general direction. However, it does seem that Kayvon Thibodeau might have just had a skinful and decided to snap. So Des Bryant posted during the game, "The Giants have got to be sick. I don't care what anyone says." And Kayvon, it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. He quote retweeted it saying, "We've got the same amount of SB," referencing Des Bryant's lack of a Super Bowl ring. Bryant would respond with, "So I'm good with that. You guys let go of the best player in the NFL this year, and the GM's son told him straight to his face to draft Jaden Daniels. You shouldn't be addressing me. You should be addressing your dumbass GM." The back and forth would continue. I have pulled some of the jabs that made me chuckle, or at least were entertaining. So Des Bryant said, "You're the only player over there who's legit is the Malik Neighbours. Other than that, sorry to break it to you, buddy, you guys are awful. Cut all that political shit out. You better hope they don't trade your ass the way you're hyping. Pipe down, buddy. I better not see you looking for a trade or cut." And the last thing that he said towards Thibodeau was, "He's talking like he's legit. He's sorry as fuck. A waste of a draft pick." So Des Bryant wasn't backing down. But it's nice to know that Thibodeau also wasn't backing down with tweets like, "Why haven't you retired, Des Bryant? He's waiting on the next pandemic to get a workout. What happened in Green Bay, Des Bryant? And if Joe called you for a workout, I bet you turn up." There's nothing like a good feud. We all love a good feud. The personal one that I had with Cole Beasley a couple of years ago was a cracker at the time. That ironically was over Saquon as well. So it seems to be a common denominator here. Shane, I know you had a few things to say about the back and forth and took full advantage of our X account to respond to Mr. Bryant. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Bryant, I'm still waiting for a reply. If you've got a set on you and you think you can take us on, then, feel free to reply back to us. But, I don't know if Des Bryant understands how the draft works, but you cannot draft someone who is not on the board. How can you ever go at Joe Shane? "Oh, you didn't listen to your son. You didn't trade up to Jaden Daniels. You should have took Jaden." Okay, well, Jaden weren't on the board at number 6 anyway. And number 2, we already seen no team was going to trade with us. Like, Chicago weren't going to be giving up number 1, and there was not a chance in hell Washington was going to give up number 2, let alone to a divisional rival. So, I think the old man should just sit back and enjoy retirement. And, I'm sure he'll be happy if he sees his mate Dion's son in New York Blue next year and he ends up coming to a game. That'll make for an interesting meeting between him and Thibodeau.
So Kev, obviously you hadn't heard any of that. So thoughts?
Oh, that's brilliant. I love the drama of it all. I mean, like Shane's nail in the head as well with the Daniels thing. Of course, like Daniels, we saw how much Dable wanted Daniels or would have loved to have drafted him. So that's like a moot point anyway. But yeah, I just think that I just love a bit of drama going back and forward. I think like, nothing too drastic, I don't think anyone's feelings will go too hurt there, but it's Cowboys, Giants, crime on crime, I'm here for all that type of stuff. Like,
I do have to say as well, I've seen a few Giants fans having a go at Thibodeau over it. Like, I don't care if he's not been worth number 5 overall pick. I don't care if we've not seen the production we want from him. You back your boy.
Oh, 100%.
I don't care if he's had a poor season or not. If he's repping Big Blue and he's going after one of our rivals, icons, heroes, legends, whatever them two girls want to call him, I don't really care. But if he's going after him, then you back him up.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely behind him.
100%. So Kev, one of the other things that he said was, where is it? The only player over there who is legit is Malik Neighbours. No. Is he forgetting? Is he forgetting the potential All-Pro left tackle, the potential All-Pro defensive tackle? I mean, even Brian Burns, you could turn around and say is legit.
100% agree. I think it's just obviously like wide receivers, they like to stick to their own, don't they? They have a little club where they only sort of see each other when they're talking about players and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, just Brian knows we have a couple of decent players, but just Neighbours is the one that he wants to shout out because he is a wide receiver who, let's face it, with a bit better play, he could be special next year and will meet those escalators that you were talking about so soon.
Here's a question to both of you. Is this whole Giants let Barkley go thing just fucking old now? Like, is it just stale? Is it like super stale and I'm just sick and tired of people going, they let him go. Like, Barkley had offers to stay in that season previously from Joe Shane. So Joe Shane didn't let him go for nothing. He tried. It's just, it didn't work out. Like, we aren't getting the production Saquon has had this season behind the O-line we have now. We definitely weren't getting it behind the O-line that we had last season, the previous season. So, fair, go out there, do your thing, whatever. I don't care, but it's at what point does he become the Eagles Saquon Barkley and not ex-Giant Saquon Barkley?
Probably not till he retires, if we're honest. It's something that's always going to be held against us, irrespective, like, in my opinion. I know, like, for me, I've got to be honest, it's a little bittersweet because, like, I hate of where he's playing now, but obviously he was Penn State. He's one of the reasons why kind of I was Penn State myself. So it is good to see him. I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's kind of been able to show his potential. I'm happy he's got the opportunity to win a Super Bowl. I just detest the fact that it's for the filthy birds. Hopefully they lose. But I think it's going to be something that, it's going to be spoken about next season. It's going to be spoken 2 years from now, 5 years from now. And, if he ends up doing some, I don't know what the Eagles records are like. They're probably not that great, in all honesty. But I'm sure they've got some rushing record that Saquon's going to end up breaking one day. And then it'll be mentioned then as well. So, I just think it's something that's going to be constantly mentioned.
So before we kind of move on to the next bit, just get your initial thoughts on the fact that we're now looking at an Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl again.
My mate asked me what I was doing for it earlier on. He went, "What are you doing for it?" I went, "Doing for what?" He went, "The Super Bowl." Just replied back, "Sleeping." I'm absolutely not watching that. I don't know what I'm working, but even if I'm off, I'm not watching that Super Bowl at all.
It's one of those things where it's just like, we thought this season we had all the pain we could muster in this season, and just to tip it off, someone just thought, you know what, Giants fans, no, I'm not done with you yet. You've got a little bit more pain for you. We've got a little bit more suffering for you to go through. I mean, it's just a worst case scenario, isn't it? Like, to have a team that can be so disliked, like the Chiefs, making it a run at a first ever three-peat. The first ever team to get back there 3 times in a row as it is, and then for them to win it. But where do we stand? Because we kind of have to support that nonsense, because what's the alternative? Like, I won't even say it out loud. The alternative just cannot happen. So it will be a case of, like, you know, you can never, 2 teams can't lose, but oh god, I wish you could. But yeah, I mean, it's just bad. Just bad peeing. Bring on the peeing.
Craig, what will it like infuriate you more? Would it be seeing Taylor Swift being given the Lombardi Trophy and hoisting it up, or Nick Sirianni hosting it up?
Nick Sirianni, it's not even a question. I would rather listen. I would rather listen to Taylor Swift for 48 hours straight, probably longer than I'd rather listen to Taylor Swift the rest of my life than see Nick Sirianni up there. That's how much I detest that man.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Just a smug, arrogant prick, and I cannot stand him.
Oh, because we like to go off on tangents. It happened. We're 16 minutes in. Would you rather Nick Sirianni win the Super Bowl or Bill Belichick become the next head coach of the New York Giants?
Oh, please welcome Bill Belichick as the next football New York Football Giants head coach.
You know, I'm on a mission now to find out. I'm gonna, for the rest of the show, I'm gonna keep putting in every now and again. I'm gonna be Craig, would you
rather? Yeah, very true, Holty. Sirianni does have a face even his own mother wants to punch.
And also, just get back on the Saquon as well. Like, a lot of I've saw this narrative a little bit. All like, oh, but wouldn't it be good for Saquon? Wouldn't you feel good for Saquon, the fact that, you know, he gave some good years to us and he's gone over there? And I'm like, absolutely not. Don't be so stupid. You know, he made that decision to go over there. He's a turncoat. He's gone from us now. You know, he was and he was never going to be the same running back here, because we would just have been dysfunctional for the last couple of years. He's gone over there and they've got 2 like Pro Bowl tackles, and Mailata and what's the other big guy?
Johnson.
Johnson. And Lane Johnson. They got you know, they drafted well for a center. They have Jurgens in the middle there, and hey ho, what did they go and do? They went and got someone, Mekhi Becton, who failed at the Jets at a tackle, and people said he could never play guard. They picked him up cheap on free agency, moved him into guard, and he was well above average all year. That offensive line is absolutely phenomenal. And to be honest, like, you know, I reckon I could get a few yards behind that line, to be honest, if I drop my shoulder pads, drop my pad level, you know, and get behind the ball. But it was never going to happen here. And like I said, this Super Bowl, it really is one that you could miss as Giants fans anyway.
What odds can I get? This Sirianni thing, by the way. What odds can I get on Evan Neal becoming an elite guard at the Philadelphia Eagles when he lives in New York? There we go. Yeah, there we go. Literally didn't even see that comment. Like, you just know
it came in halfway through your sentence.
Yeah, literally. I'm not being funny. This is the kind of thinking that the New York Giants fans have. We think of what's the worst possible thing that could happen, and then we put it into existence.
That's a rough
Sirianni
one.
win the Super Bowl or Leeds go bust?
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Probably Leeds go bust, to be fair.
Oh, wow.
He's already been cheating on Leeds with Reading anyway for the last couple of years.
Exactly. So, you know.
Would you rather Sirianni win the Super Bowl or the New York Giants never win a Super Bowl ever again?
Oh.
Hey, we might have stumped. This is what's that game called? Stump the whatever it is.
Stump the truck.
Stump the truck.
And the NFL draft.
I think I'd rather have Sirianni win one.
Yes, I got him to say it.
because I want to see the Giants win a Super Bowl in my lifetime.
Your love to the Giants is greater than your hate for Sirianni.
Yes.
Not by much, but yes.
Not by much, yeah, exactly. Right. That's completely derailed my train of thought for the last 5 minutes. Right, as we alluded to earlier, draft season gets properly underway this weekend with the Senior Bowl. And before Kev and Shane give us 8 players to look out for this weekend, it's time to bring back a fan favourite and a favourite of Shane's, something close to his heart. It is the mock draft tracker, the roundup. Shane, it is over to you to do the roundup, seeing as do you want to say the names of the kind of analysts that we like to follow and track first?
Yeah, sure. So the analysts, I'm not just taking over and on mute. The analysts that we like to follow and keep an eye on is Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, both of the NFL, and then we have Mel Kiper, Matt Miller, Jordan Reed, all of ESPN, and then finally, is any mock draft complete without the beast? No, not former Albion keeper Brian Jensen, Dane Brugler from The Athletic. This segment is close to my heart. I do enjoy this. There's nothing more I hate than having to look for an analyst's latest mock draft to see they've not done one. That's like so disappointing. That's like opening Link's app picker on Christmas Day. You're like, yes, it ain't happened.
Shane, I just can't believe you just glossed over friend of the pod, Jordan Reed.
That is very true. I apologise for that, Jordan. We hope to get back on one day. Might be this year, might not be. But we are just on that topic. There's nothing to kind of tell, but all being well, we're going to start reaching out to people, and we could try and get some draft analysts on here so they can tell me and Kev that we're completely wrong and ain't got a fucking clue, which I'm not going to argue with. So yeah, going back to the mock draft roundup then. So first of all, Daniel Jeremiah, his latest mock draft was released on the 25th of January. He had Abdul Carter going at number 1 to Tennessee. Number 2, he had Travis Hunter going to Cleveland Browns. So, number 3, New York Giants. We've got the options of the quarterbacks if we want him, or that could go another route. But he does have us taking Cam Ward, quarterback, out of Miami. Bucky Brooks has yet to do his yet. Come on, Bucky, slacking man. Mel Kiper, he had Cam Ward this time going at number 1 to Tennessee, and Travis Hunter again at number 2 going to Cleveland, which meant we had the option of going for Abdul Carter or Shedeur Sanders, and he had us taking Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback out of Colorado. Matt Miller was also not done one. That's another one who's slacking. Come on, Matthew. Next up, Jordan Reed, ESPN. He had Cam Ward going 1 and Shedeur Sanders going at 2. So both quarterbacks off the board there, and we've got our choice of non-quarterback players. He actually gave us Travis Hunter, cornerback / wide receiver / unicorn is what I'm hearing, out of Colorado. And then finally, the beast, Dane Brugler for The Athletic. He had Cam Ward going at number 1 and Abdul Carter at number 2. So again, we've got the option of taking Shedeur Sanders here if we wanted, but Dane actually gave us the unicorn himself, Travis Hunter, cornerback wide receiver out of Colorado. And that is all the latest mock drafts are out from those guys. And that'll be the guys that we kind of focus on. And, when they do release a new one, we'll discuss it on here. I don't know if you guys have got any thoughts on kind of the players that we've been took there. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 mock drafts. 2 of us have got us going quarterback, and then 2 have got us going Travis Hunter.
So Matt Miller actually did his last one was during the end part of the season, and it was when the Jags had the number 1 overall pick. And his last mock draft had us trading up to number 1 with the Jags to take Shedeur. The reason that we haven't kind of included that is because it was halfway through the season, and it makes no sense with the way that everything's gone on since then, considering the Jags had the number 1 overall pick and they're not even in the top 3 now. So there we go. Sorry, Kev, you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it's kind of like very similar players to what you would expect us to take. I mean, it looks like if one of the top 2 quarterbacks is there, it just makes too much sense. Travis Hunter, again, like she says, one of those unicorn players. He'll come in, he'll be one of the best wide receivers or best quarterbacks in your team. And then Abdul Carter is an absolute freak of an edge player who is excellent. So, I mean, one thing I will say is, in theory, we say this a lot, but in theory, at number third overall pick, if we stay there and pick, we're getting a good player that can definitely help this franchise move in the right direction. So, I mean, that's the positive side of it. Like, but things will heat up over the next couple of months, next month or two. It's just whether we stick and pick or do we trade up to that first overall. I'm hearing those rumblings, but I mean, these are the names that we'll kind of see over the next month or two.
Is there any world in which we screw up pick number 3? Look, no. I just think it's one of them where we can't really go wrong here. We either take the quarterback or we take probably one or the second best defensive player off the board.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on that, you're 100% right. I mean, like, the thing is, if we take, and you can't say retrospectively either in like a year's time, in the sense that if you pick a player, we'll pick Shedeur Sanders for example, like, and he turns out not to be a quarterback, to take us into the future, it doesn't mean the pick was bad today. Does that make sense? Like, so if we pick one of the quarterbacks, top 2 quarterbacks, it's because we need a quarterback, and they're one of the top 2 quarterbacks to pick in this draft. I mean, then you look at Abdul Carter and Mason Graham, like 2 defensive line players that would be huge for this team. I mean, you go to like Will Johnson, the cornerback, Tatora McMillan. If you pick that to go along with, you want weapons to go along with Malik Neighbors. I mean, I just feel that at that position, you could almost pick any player, like even like a Kelvin Banks or a Will Campbell, like offensive tackles, offensive linemen, Shane. But like, there's almost like there's a player that would be worth that pick, whoever we picked. So I just think apart from Ashton Genty, I don't think you're absolutely right. I don't think you can get that wrong. Now that player might turn out not to be third overall worthy in a few years' time. Say maybe Thibodeau and Neal haven't been 5th and 7th overall, but at the time when we made those picks, they were 100% worth those picks when we made them.
And we wouldn't be the first team to muff on a draft pick. And we won't be the last. That's the thing, isn't it? Like, a lot of people could look at it as like, oh, it's typical Giants. But we're not the first. And we won't be the last. Like, there are draft busts every year. It's the way it happens. It's almost like the lottery that you play, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like, and you alluded to it a little bit as well earlier on, Craig, that we also need to do better on days 2 and 3 as a whole. Like, hitting your first round pick every year won't help you develop this team going forward. You need to supplement through the free agency, and you need to hit on other picks as well.
100%. Shane, before we move on, Mayo has said, can I recommend Mike Renner from CBS as somebody to add into the mock draft tracker?
Yeah, literally, I've just been Googling to see whether he'd got one out already. Don't think he has, but we will be. Oh, hang on. Talk for a minute, please.
Mayo has also said whoever the Eagles take will be a Pro Bowler, which is
they standard as well. Like, just to talk about that, when they took Nolan, at the time it was an awesome pick. He fell to them like all the players seem to fall to them in the 20s. It's so annoying and so frustrating, and he didn't have a great start, but he's starting to show now why that even though they had depth at defensive line, they still picked the best player available, and they're starting to reap that reward now. So it's just going to show as well, like, if you pick a player just because you have a player at that position, doesn't mean that like picking for need is what I'm saying. Don't pick for need, just pick good players, and your roster will develop.
Yeah, so on January the 15th, Mike Renner did do a mock draft. I just can't work out if it's his own mock draft or like a bit of a joint one, because it does mention a podcast with Ryan, former NFL draft analyst Ryan Wilson, former Vikings general manager Rick Spielman. But either way, we'll roll with this one. He had Cam Ward going at number 1 and Abdul Carter at number 2. So another one that had us taking the unicorn at pick number 3.
Interesting. So that's 3 picks for Mr. Travis Hunter, 1 for Cam Ward and 1 for Shedeur Sanders out of the 5 that we have covered there. So, but yeah, we'll add him into there, Mayo. So thank you for that. Right, lads. Senior Bowl. Shall we get at that? This weekend on the NFL Network, starting at 2:30 Eastern on Saturday, so 7:30 in the UK. Today was also the start of the practice sessions for the American and national teams. Those are already on the NFL Network. They've probably just finished. But they will also be on there tomorrow and Thursday. The national team practice will be live from 12 p.m. Eastern. So that is 5 p.m. over here. And the American team practice will be shown live from 2 p.m. Eastern. So that's 7 p.m. here. Both those practices are 2 hours long and are on the NFL Network. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to move us over to the side here. Kev, do you want to go first with your American offensive players to look out for?
Yeah, so I've gone for the first one. Was obviously we can't pick offensive players without picking one of the quarterbacks. And we've kind of like discussed Jackson Dart like last week. We went into quite a bit, which just side note, I really enjoyed those discussions and having the clips up, and I thought that was a really good episode. But yeah, we're going to Jalen Milroe out of Alabama. He's 6'1", 220 pounds. Had a not great season last year statistic wise. He threw for 2,800 yards, only 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He did rush for nearly 900 yards though. And it's just like he's one of those players that he kind of reminds me a little bit of Justin Fields, as in, he would, he's got a big arm. He can throw the ball. He can throw it like 60 yards down the field if you need him to. He's very good with his legs. He forced 35 missed tackles in 2023. He's got really quick release, decent footwork. He can extend plays. He made up, like I said, nearly got 900 yards on the ground last year. So he can, if a play breaks down, he can get those first downs for you and keep the chains moving. But his accuracy can struggle, especially when he throws towards the sideline. He can be a little bit late on his reads. He's hanging on to the ball too long. I think, was it last year, he had 3.44 seconds. I debate, I need to look into it further, but I debate how he reads protection, how he reads defenses, and how he adjusts protections as well. So, there's like tools there to work with, but also, he's got some glaring weaknesses. But I see a lot of people saying that, this is a quarterback that if you don't go quarterback in the first number 3 overall, do you go for someone like him who maybe Dable can try and mold and get the best out of him going forward?
And those hand sizes too small. That's a small hand size for the NFL.
That's like Kenny Pickett size hands.
Was it Kenny Pickett who there was the big talk about a few years ago? I'm sure there was a quarterback who had small hands, and there was talk about did he play?
Pickett.
Did he have a glove on his hand?
You had a what?
Did he have a glove on his hand? There was a quarterback that was drafted that used to play.
I know Bridgewater had a glove on his throwing hand, which was crazy. But yeah, Pickett was the small hands. That was his big thing coming out of the draft.
This is what I love about draft content. We talk about hands, hand sizes, worrying about whether someone's going to be able to hold on to the football for
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know what my measurements are to know if I am sort of viewed as a fumble worthy quarterback. Cool. Who is your other American player then, Kev?
So I've gone for offensive line because, again, we just always need offensive linemen. And I've gone for Jonah Savanea. Hope I pronounced that right. So he plays offensive tackle, but everyone sort of projected him more as a moving inside into a guard. He's 6'3", 340 pounds, so he's a big boy. He's got nice big long arms as well, like over 34 and a half wingspan. He is a big boy. You know, we talk about hand sizes for quarterbacks. He's got those big thighs and those big bum cheeks. You know, those real like solid players. You know, but he is actually quite quick for the size of him. You know, once he gets his hands on you, like it's very, very hard to disengage from him. Like he really like just drives you forward. Like, you know, it's really, really cool to see. You know, he's quite good at holding off pass rushers, but also he's good at like stunts as well. When you see like D tackles and edge rushers stunt inside and stuff like that, and he's very good at picking those up. And throughout his, he played all of 22, all of 23, and all of 24, but he played at all positions: tackle, guard, and center. And to have that versatility, if someone like him comes in, you know, he's sort of like projected as a third-round pick. I think he can start, not a problem. I think he'd be a very, very good starter in this league. But having that positional flexibility means, you know, how the cover would be brilliant as well, knowing that you'd have sort of a sixth man who'd be able to cover like all the positions across the offensive line and cover it really well as well. You know, some of the things, pass protection, I'd like to see him get a bit better at pass protection. Although he's good in the run game, you know, I'd like to see him get a little bit better in the pass protection.
Phrases you thought you'd never hear on the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. He's got big bum cheeks. I think even Chris has said geez to that one, Kev. However, that is the joy of draft season, is we get to talk about.
We all know what Kev's watching on tape now.
I love that. I love that all 22 angle from behind.
Oh God. Cool. Right. Completely derailed. That's the second time someone's derailed my train of thought. National team, then. Who have you got first?
Well, I don't know if this is a thing now people will pick up on, but I have a certain type of wide receiver that I like. There's some guys that I see and I just love the look of them, and that is
is it receivers with big bum cheeks?
No, I like big receivers. I like big possession X receivers. I like 6'3", 212-pound Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. What was the stats last year? Stats last year was 1,185 yards for 9 touchdowns. You know, his drop rate was only 2.2 last year. The year before, he had 980 yards with 6 touchdowns. Yeah, he's just one of those players that, you know, he can, like, I think, again, would be a great, because I like pairing players with the Giants. And I think he'd be a great foil to play opposite Neighbors. You know, he'd be your big X receiver, and Neighbors is your move tight end, move wide receiver to move him around. You know, he's got really strong hands, really good in the red zone, catches everything around him. He's actually quite shifty in and out of his breaks for someone his size. You know, he's one of those good, like, when I see a team drop back in zone, and we talk about it quite often, is does he run into players or does he run into the soft spots between the zones of the players? Like, and this guy does that really, really well. You know, I would question whether he's got the long speed, like to actually, you know, his 40 time won't be great, but for these type of receivers, I'm not too bothered about that unless it is slow. You know, and if he's in press man coverage, he could do a little bit better getting off the ball. Like we looked at McMillan last week, and some of the reps we saw him, you know, he just blew off the ball and slapped the hands away, and his getting off release was fantastic. Whereas, you know, I think Jaden, you know, he needs to work on that a little bit, Jaden Higgins, and you know, he might need a little bit more space in the NFL. You know, he in the run game as well for his size, I think you want to see more from him. Like, you can kind of see the efforts there, but he kind of gets thrown around a little bit in the run game, and you kind of want your big receiver, like 6'3", 217-pound receiver. You kind of want them to have a bit more about them. But yeah, I do like him again, sort of that 3rd, 4th round range. I think he could definitely do a job for us.
Is that left hand? Have they only put his left hand measurement on here?
Maybe his right hand was busy.
Who knows? Who knows? Right, round it out then, Kev. Last one.
Last one is, again, there's some offensive players that I just like. And what else do I like to go along with a big receiver? Give me a big-ass tight end. I'm going Terrence Ferguson, 6'4", 245 pounds. And look at that! Look at that arm and wingspan. Again, he's one of those like just a huge body. Last year, reception yards, 600 yards. He had 3 touchdowns last year. The year before, he had over 400 yards with 6 touchdowns. The year before, he started in pretty much every game in 21, 22, 23, and 24. So he's got experience as well. So he's been there and seen it and done it. Again, big, solid frame, catches everything that comes his way. He's got really good, strong hands. And he's actually, after the catch, he shifts a little bit better than some of the bigger tight ends his size. He's actually got a little bit of a wiggle about him, which I like. He's got good balance. In the blocking, I wouldn't say he excels in run blocking, but he definitely gets his man blocked. He's definitely like one of the words that I see a lot is scrappy, and you can definitely see that. He's competitive and scrappy. Again, he struggles a little bit with initial contact, struggles to get off the press a little bit. We need to work on that. And what was it? One stat I pulled up as well. He had, 8 penalties from offensive pass interference. So he gets caught pushing off a little bit, not much, a little bit. So, they all do it. Wide receivers, tight ends all push off. We all know this. Just need to be a little bit more subtle about it. He needs to work on his dark arts a little bit better. But again, this is a player that, I want to see early in day 3 that I think would be a great foil to Johnson, who is, your athletic tight end.
Come on, Shane.
So I was going to say, so from my skating report then, I've established that Kev likes offensive linemen with big ass cheeks. He likes big wide receivers, and he likes tight ends that have got a big ass with a bit of wiggle. Is that an accurate scouting report?
that would be accurate, yes.
So you say about the offensive pass interference, that tends to be a little less called at the college level as well. So that's potentially a bit of a red flag when it comes to him versus obviously some. We saw Theo get flagged for a few of them this year, didn't we? Where he just kind of wasn't subtle enough with the pushes. So,
and that's it. I think and once coaches get their hands on him this week and see if they can sort of not coach it out of him this week, because that won't happen, but see if he can take the coaching on. And also when it comes to interviews and stuff like that, you'll be able to see if that's something you can do with a player like this.
Cool. So obviously that's offense. Shane, you are Mr. Defense, have done for this season. So that is what you've taken on your prospects to watch. Who have you gone for first?
So I'm hoping the first guy it's going to be Maxon Hook. There we go. Love it when a plan comes together. Maxon Hook, DB, more to be a safety in the NFL, out of Toledo. Kind of been aware of him for the last couple of years, but especially got to watch a lot of tape of him last year when I was watching tape on Quinion Mitchell, who obviously went in the first round out of Toledo as well. 5'11", 193 pounds. Now he's been starting safety at Toledo since 2021, where he spent 5 years in total at Toledo, so he's experienced at the position. He went over 100 tackles for the first time in 2024. With 108, he had 2 interceptions, 4 passes batted, and a forced fumble as well. And he was part of the first team All-MAC in 2022, 2023, and 2024. So, as I say, he's a very experienced safety, and he's also a safety that's kind of been recognised as well for the work that he does. In terms of the play you're going to get from Maxon Hook, excuse me, he's much better in the run game than in the passing game. He's gladly going to come up in the box, and that's where I imagine you're going to see the most and the best of him at the next level. I think when he enters the NFL, he's going to be a rotational player to begin with his early opportunities coming in special teams. and he's a kind of player he's going to be a day 3 pick, I'd imagine. I think kind of round 4 is probably the highest you might see him go, but you could see him dropping into round 5 and maybe even round 6 of the draft this year. The next guy I've got coming up, I'd be interested to see if Kev's watched any tape on this guy, Mike Green out of Marshall. He's I
haven't, but I keep hearing his name.
Yeah, he's so he's out of Marshall, so he's out of a small school, but he led the FBS in sacks last year with 17 in total. His pass rush is his forte, as evident by the number of sacks that he recorded last year. The run game has got a few more question marks, but size was a big question coming into Mobile. The measurements on screen have really given teams a bit more confidence in him. There was thoughts that he might even come in at about 230 potentially for him to have gone over that 250 mark is massive for him. I mean, I know it's only a small picture there, but you can tell for an edge guy, he's not that big, 6'3", 251. That is on the smaller end of what you'd want to see, Kev.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see if he's put weight on for this, as in because sometimes they can try and bloat themselves up to sort of heavy the scales, but hopefully that's not the case. But if it is the case, I want to see if he's kept his explosion, if he's still got his explosive off the edge with that extra weight on. Because you're 100% right. The things I've been reading up and I haven't watched his tape yet, but what I've heard from him is he is legit, but he's light. But to see him come in at 250 at 6'3" is fantastic measurements for the position. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him on the one-on-ones against some of these offensive tackles. It'll be brilliant.
Yeah, and as I say, he come from Marshall, but what I've got on my notes is that, he come from a small school, but he was a wrecker in the game against Ohio State. Now, in that Ohio State game, he only actually had 1 sack, but he posted, I think it was his 3rd or 4th highest pass rushing grade in that Ohio State game. So it was a case of, he was wrecking in the sense of causing disruption and being a disruptive force, but he just wasn't getting the sacks there. And he's the kind of player whose traits and ceiling could cause a team to fall in love with him. He could have the most to gain out of all defensive linemen this year, and he has started off well with his weight. I think he's one of these players who if he reaches his ceiling, he could go in the late 20s, and teams in 3 or 4 years' time will be like, what a steal that was, looking back on it. So I believe
if you don't go Abdul Carter at 3, early in the 2nd round, he's not a bad consolation prize, would he?
No, I don't think he makes it out of round 1, to be honest with you. I think a team is going to fall in love with the production. I mean, 17 sacks, but it was against smaller schools. But if you can't do it against smaller schools, you've got no chance of doing it against bigger schools. And like I say, that Ohio State tape is going to be massive for teams when they come to scouting him. So the American teams next.
Yep.
So I've gone for another defensive lineman player, and this guy is the complete opposite of Mike Green, and that's Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. Now, he came in at 6'5", 281 pounds, so he's already got 30 pounds and 2 foot on previously mentioned Mike Green. But I genuinely think Shamar Stewart is going to have a bigger path to the draft than anybody else from now until late April. He only posted 4.5 sacks in 3 seasons at Texas. But he's regularly spoken about as one of these pass rushers who's going to be drafted on day 1. I think I've seen him as high as edge 2 for some people. Despite
didn't he play a lot interior though?
I think he played kind of all
along
over the place, but I reckon he's going to be an edge at the next level. Because one of the reasons why he played interior so much is because I've got it on my notes, he's a much better run defender than pass rusher, which is why I say he's the complete opposite to Mike Green. Mike Green, pass production needs to improve his run game, whereas Shamar Stewart, it's the other way around. I mean, I do like the idea of maybe getting someone like a Shamar Stewart and pairing him next to Dexy, and then on the edge you've got Thibodeau and Burns. I think that could be quite a formidable force. But I think, it's going to be his pass rushing ability between now and the draft when he turns up at Mobile, when he does his one-on-ones, when he gets on the field, even something as simple as when he goes to the combine. I don't know if he's had a combine invite or if he's accepted it or not, but even those kind of drills, was it the ball on the broom, I think it is, or something like that they get him doing, just showing that bend to show that, he can get to the pass rusher. So, athletically, he's an absolute, like, 6'5", 281. That is, this is the equivalent of Kev with ass cheeks for me. 6'5", 281. It just talks to me. So, I think Shamar Stewart's going to have a lot of interviews as to why his production wasn't great. I don't think you can just get away with turning around and saying I was playing the interior, and teams are going to go, oh, okay, no problems, because your size, we still expect you to be able to get home. So yeah, that's the edge guy. And then the last guy that I've got is linebacker Demetrius Knight Jr. out of South Carolina. Now, it's a bit of a poor linebacking group that's showing up to Mobile, to be honest with you. Some of the main guys that you'd want to be seeing there either weren't invited or aren't going. So Demetrius Knight has got so much to gain kind of this week, and could, see himself spoken about as maybe the third linebacker in this linebacker group, which is where I'm kind of putting him up at the minute. 6'1", 246 pounds, formerly of Georgia Tech, where he spent 4 years there, and then he spent 1 year at Charlotte. I do like him big, male. Yeah, he had 1 year at Charlotte, and then he had 1 year at South Carolina. So again, it's another linebacker who's very experienced. He's very athletic and he's instinctive at a run defender, but he does struggle against the blocks when the offensive lineman engage him. He struggles to shake the offensive lineman off. He's also more than capable when he's required to drop into coverage. Now, he's a bit of a do-it-all linebacker, as I say. He's probably the best linebacker that will be mobile this week, and he's got a real opportunity to cement himself, I'd say, as a solid day 2 pick, probably in the round 3 area.
Well, there we go. That is the 8 players for this weekend. Kev, anything you wanted to add onto the defensive side?
No, just like I said, I just love seeing the one-on-ones. People good going on good. Some of the small school guys who people say, it's the level of competition. But like as Sheehan rightly says, did he go out there and perform? Yes. Well, he's meant to. Okay. Now it's the top levels against people in this draft class that you're going against. So I'm really interested to see sort of all the players come out.
I think that I can't remember who it was. Somebody earlier was posting it might have been on the Talking Giants, either Bobby or Justin posted that Stuart's one-on-ones earlier, so they're worth watching. I remember watching those. Whoever it was he was up against was an absolute monster, and they had one hell of a battle going on. So that's one for viewers and listeners to look up. We'll make sure we retweet it on our page. You can find it on our X.
And just quickly, a couple of my guys. I talked about them before, but I just want to give them a wee shout out now. I want to, cornerback Trey Amos from Ole Miss. I'm interested to see how he gets on this week. And wide receiver Alec Aminor from Stanford. I'm really interested to see how he's a big-bodied wide receiver, 6'3", 212.
Cool. Let's close this out then by taking a look at the PFF Top 100 free agent list. We've all looked at the list and chosen 2 that we want to spotlight, whether these are players that we think are realistic choices or, personal preference, or somebody that could make a difference. It remains to be seen. Obviously, we've got our Fix the Giants episode next week, and in 2 weeks' time, we have our Pipe Dream, likely and under the radar lists coming out as well. So these are just kind of cherry-picked guys for now that maybe we have a little soft spot for and wouldn't mind seeing them in Giants blue. Now, before we reveal the picks, let's have a look at the top 10 according to PFF. So number 10, they have Josh Sweat, edge from the Eagles. Number 9, Sam Darnold, quarterback who was with the Vikings last year. Number 8, Ronnie Stanley, tackle from the Ravens. Number 7, Amari Cooper, wide receiver from Buffalo. 6, DJ Reed, the cornerback from the Jets. Number 5, Khalil Mack, edge from the Chargers. Number 4, Chris Godwin, wide receiver from the Bucks. Number 3, Javon Holland, safety for Miami. Number 2, Trey Smith, guard for the Chiefs. And the number 1 ranked PFF free agent for this upcoming season is T. Higgins, wide receiver from the Bengals, which should shock nobody. And as Mayo rightly says, T. Higgins, if cap space was unlimited. Unfortunately, it is not. So we've had to have a look. Now, I don't think any of us have really thought about cap space with these. It's just kind of like a fuzzy feeling kind of thing when we look at these players and we fancy them. So I'm up first. My first of the 2 picks, I actually went for Javon Holland, the safety out of Miami. Now, you might think I'm a little bit crazy highlighting a safety that's projected 19.5 million per year, when across 4 years, that is, especially when we're just 12 months removed from Joe Shane saying to Xavier McKinney he wouldn't pay that. And then he went on to pay or went on to get a deal with the Packers for 16.75 million a year across 4 years. But hear me out. Let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. 2024 statistically was a big downgrade on his previous 3 years. However, he still maintained a strong run defense grade. And even though the coverage grade was a step backwards, he was targeted more than he has been previously in his career. And his 61.5 reception grade was actually his second lowest in the 4 years that he's been in the league. For the first season, he didn't have an interception. He had at least one in 2021, 22, and 23, but 2024 he was interceptionless. But he has had 6 in his previous 3 years. 6 seems to be the magic number for Javon Holland, because in his 4 years in the league, he also has 6 forced fumbles and 6 sacks. Not sure why he loves that so much, but we'll wait and see. One thing that kind of stood out for me when I was looking at Javon Holland was that you've got Tyron Armstead, the tackle for the Dolphins, who he was interviewed preseason by Kay Adams and spoke quite highly of Holland. He said he's wise beyond his years. He's a leader. He wears a lot of responsibilities that people on the sideline have no idea that he's in control of. And I think that's something that we kind of missed this year with Pinnock and Nubin. I have no doubt that Nubin will be a leader going forward, but I feel like we almost need a leader now there for him to learn off. I think McKinney would have been perfect for Nubin to learn off, but unfortunately it was Pinnock who's there, who I don't think we should re-sign. And if you think about it, Holland's only 25, so if you couple that with the leadership tendencies and age that we'll get from both him and Nubin, who's on a rookie contract until the end of 2027, the Giants could then be set up at safety until 2028 season at the earliest. So that's my thoughts on Javon Holland. Anything to add, you two, before we move on to Kev's first pick?
No, I mean, I completely understand and agree with what you said in regards to kind of getting that veteran player there. Like you say, we've not really took into account what we realistically expect to spend money-wise per player, because obviously, you say, there would be the question in regards to not re-signing McKinney and then kind of what Holland's projected to cost, but that's not been taken into the equation behind our thinking for all of these players.
Yeah, I think it's a great fit. I think he's a very good player. I think matching up his contract with Nubin's rookie contract is genius. Actually, it works really, really well. I think he'd be a great fit. My only reservation would be I just can't see Joe Sheehan forking out 15 plus per year after McKinney left last year. And then McKinney go on to have the season that he had for the Packers, and I just think the optics would be just too bad. I think he might go more for the middle of range safety. But as we've got the luxury to do what we want, I think it's an absolute great fit, and it would help this defense enormously.
You'd almost wish that Joe Shane gets seller's remorse, which you don't hear much of. You hear a lot of buyer's remorse. You don't hear seller's remorse too much, but you just kind of wish that he would get that. Kev, you're up first with your first one and a cornerback by the look of things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but we kind of need a cornerback. Like, I don't know if you're aware. So I think we might have to go out into free agency and get ourselves one that has real starting capability. And one that just sort of like I looked at, I saw DJ Reed, and he's one of those players that, you know, since he come into the league, I mean, apart from his rookie season, he's posted above 70 in defense rankings and well above 70, close to 80 in his coverage rankings. He's another one who's had six interceptions throughout his time in the league. I mean, he's on the shorter side. He's 5'9". He's 108 pounds. You know, while he's not the biggest, he definitely plays with really, really good physicality. He doesn't shy away from contact. His size really, you know, shouldn't be too much of a distractor because, like, you know, he plays bigger. Like I said, he's technically sound. He's a savvy corner. He's versatile. He can play inside. He can play outside. You know, he's got great instincts. He's got good agility. He's been around the league now for a few years, so you know, he sort of knows how this league and what it's about. Got good football IQ. You know, he's got good. He gets good pass breakups, although like he doesn't get that many interceptions as such. You know, I just think he's a player that will come in and be a good starting wide receiver, a good starting cornerback in this league. He might not be excellent, but I think he can be. I hope he can be a cornerback one, although I think he might not be that good to be a top tier one. But he would definitely be cornerback one as soon as he sets foot into MetLife Stadium. Anyway,
I think if you look at the projections that seem to be coming out from multiple different media outlets on the internet, a lot of people are putting DJ Reed and Javarius Ward from the 49ers, linked with us because of the need. So it makes perfect sense, I think. Shane, you've gone for what I consider a little bit of a curveball here with your first one. Do you want to reveal it?
Yeah, so I went for running back Aaron Jones. Minnesota Vikings this past year after spending, I think, it's about 6 or 7 years with the Green Bay Packers. My reason for this is the fact that Eric Gray is Eric Gray. But that's the best way I can kind of put it. He's not going to be kind of taking any meaningful snaps. Hopefully, he's not going to be returning any punts this season either. And I've got to be honest with you, I just wasn't impressed with Devin Singletary this past year. To be honest with you, he didn't live up to kind of what I kind of expected and anticipated from him. Now, I don't know what the money involved would be in terms of moving on from Devin Singletary. I didn't look into that in that much detail. But I just think, you know, you've got what appears a solid running back in Tyrone Tracy, but I think he needs someone to be paired with. And I think a veteran like Aaron Jones, he's going to be 31 this coming season, would be just a smart move to make. You know, he's coming off, I think it was his best rushing year this year. One of his best, he posted 1,186 rushing yards, which would be his best since the year 2020. And I think as well that, you know, I did say we didn't take money into account for this, but I did have it in mind that, you know, Aaron Jones, he's not going to break the bank. He signed a 1 year, $7 million deal with Minnesota Vikings. I think you could probably get him back for something similar, maybe even a little bit less. And I just think, you know, as I say, running back, I'd just rather bring a more solid veteran, because we did see at times Tyrone Tracy, you know, he did fumble the ball. I mean, don't get me wrong, Aaron Jones has got fumble issues 21 over his career. But you know, I just wasn't impressed with Devin Singletary, and I'd have no issues moving on Singletary and bringing in a more reliable, proven veteran running back.
I like it.
Yeah, good. I mean, like, Singletary didn't come in and do what we thought he was going to do when he came in, and the Giants signed him to a contract that's easy enough to get out of. I mean, like, if they were to cut him now, they would save $250,000 this year. They don't owe him any guaranteed salary next year. So you'd be saving like 6.5 million next year if you cut him this year. Like, so it's very, very easy contract to get out of, or you could just keep him as a third back.
It is a good point. Great point. Obviously, we've got Dante Miller as well, who I believe will be sticking around as well. So this could be goodbye Eric Gray potentially in the off season. I'm sure he will not cost anything to cut. Right, my second one. I'm sticking with that veteran idea, and it's a little bit of story time as well, I guess, as to why. But I've got Amari Cooper on there. Now let's assume Darius Slayton leaves for pastures new. It leaves the Giants with the following options under contract at wide receiver: Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Bryce Ford-Wheaton. Now, if you look at their ages, that is 21 Malik Neighbors, 24 Wan'Dale Robinson, 23 Jalen Hyatt, and 24 Bryce Ford-Wheaton. Don't know about you, but that screams lacking a veteran to me. Now, Amari Cooper, weirdly, you feel like he's been around forever, but he's actually only 30. He came into the league quite young, so he is only 30. Now, Slayton is projected 17.5 across two years. 12.5 across 2 years on the contract via PFF. They reckon that Cooper could take 17.5 across 2 years. So it's 5 million extra a year. So Drew Lock in essential, if you take it as it's Drew Lock. But regardless of that, Amari Cooper's actually still proven that he is a threat. He's been in the league for 10 years. He averages 74 receptions, 1,038 yards, 6 touchdowns a year across 10 seasons. And that's on top of the fact that he's coming off an off season where he spent the first 6 weeks with crippled, inept Deshaun Watson. And the rest of the time, he was a rotational piece at the Bills behind Shakir, Coleman, Hollins, and Samuel. So he was fighting for time on the field. Didn't complain, however. When he was actually interviewed last Thursday before the championship game, he said, ego dies and the pride's put aside for the sake of the team. And that's the kind of play you want in your locker room, especially at that age, who doesn't mind being a backup behind a few of these young studs, but actually he can pass on the knowledge to them. The worry is, has he lost a step? I mean, at 30, you'd expect that as a wide receiver. Tread on the tyres by this point. He's been in the league 10 years. But the Giants have speedsters on the team. What they don't have is somebody who's 6'1", 211, who will be the second biggest receiver on the team behind Bryce Ford-Wheaton and take some of the heat off Wan'Dale Robinson, who seems to be used for the dirty yards and gets smashed every time he catches the ball. Like, somebody's got to give Wan'Dale Robinson some praise for some durability, because he absolutely gets smashed whenever he's out on that field. So to have someone like Amari Cooper, I just feel like it almost makes sense. It might be a bit more expensive than we want to go at wide receiver, and probably more expensive than we do go, because I'm sure there are a couple of veterans out there you can get on the cheaper side. But I just feel like he gives so much upside to a receiver room that actually needs it. Oh, go on. Sorry, Shane.
No, I was going to say, I completely agree. This is one of the reasons why, kind of, if you're not bringing back Darius Slayton, you've got to go out and get an experienced player in free agency at the wide receiver position, because, let's not forget. I mean, I was listening to the Talking Giants, I think it was earlier in the week or late last week, and they were on about Darius Slayton. They were saying, Slayton was actually telling Malik Neighbors some of the reps that he had to run. He was kind of keeping Neighbors in check at times, and just one season in the league isn't going to be enough for Malik Neighbors. He's still going to need kind of some guidance and help on the field at times next season. As amazing as he was this season, and I'm not saying he's anything negative about Malik Neighbors, but he's still learning. He's still only been in the league 1 year. So, if you're not going to bring back a Darius Slayton, for me, it kind of, a veteran wide receiver becomes a must in free agency.
Cool.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I 100% agree. Sorry, yeah, and that's like Amari Cooper, I think, be a great addition. you need that veteran presence. That's someone who can like lead by example. Well, these young receivers look at someone who's been around the league, been in multiple teams. You know, he's been with the Browns, been with the Cowboys, been the Raiders, and he's the type of player that that he will make receptions. He'll make first downs. He'll make grabs that you're kind of like, oh, he shouldn't have really caught that, but he did. So I just think, again, it's one of those moves that just really makes perfect sense. Because we all know Neighbors is going to get fed. We all know that. We all know Wanda Robinson is going to take all those little underneath routes and stuff like that. So you need that foil to work off both of them too. And I think Cooper would be the perfect addition.
So you've gone back to big butt cheeks, I think, haven't you? Here,
I've gone for big old butt cheeks, and I've gone for a familiar face, Kevin Zeitler, 6'4", 315, right? He is 34 years of age, yes, but that right guard spot is looking awfully empty and lonely. He absolutely dominates in the run game. I mean, this past year, his run blocking was 87.2. His pass blocking was 71.8, which is still good. That's not bad by any means. That's a good grade. It's just his run blocking is excellent. And his overall grade in offense was 86.8. He's just one of those players that I think, like, just come in for a year. He's still playing at such a high level. His play never really dropped off. You bring him in, and he can sort of like anchor this sort of like offensive line and be sort of that veteran presence that is definitely needed. Yes, he's a little bit older, may not be as nimble as he used to be. Age is going to catch up with him at some point, and you kind of hope it's not this year. You can bring him in at a relatively cheap contract. He knows the organization. He doesn't necessarily know the current setup, but I definitely think that bringing him at right guard would just absolutely just help mold this offensive line, because we've got good players around him to start. And like I said, that right guard position is just crying out for a veteran again. Van Rotten played admirably and played well last year, but I just think we could go a step higher in quality.
Yeah, makes sense. And obviously we've lost Van Rotten. We're also going to lose Aaron Stinney, who probably not as big of a loss, but there's still question marks there, isn't there? There's probably still question marks at tackle, right tackle especially, swing tackle. So it does make sense to shore it up a bit more. I think Runyon, who typically got an injury when he never had one before, but welcome to the Giants, has kind of solidified that one side, but we definitely need an additional guard. So yeah, again, makes perfect sense. Shane, any thoughts on Zeitler, or do you want to move on to your last man?
No, I mean, obviously we need to bring some depth in at guard, but I'm going to go back to something I said earlier. Like, I want to see Evan Neal at guard. That's all. Rather than spending the money on Kevin Zeitler in free agency, I'd just rather turn around and go, you know what, Evan Neal, there you go. Show us why we should re-sign you, play guard, and then we can all sit here and go, well, we've been saying this for 3 years.
And that's from the offensive line guru. Come on.
Make Shane regret not picking up the Evan Neal jersey at the holiday photo night a couple of years ago. Right, your last one then, Shane.
Yeah, so for my last one, I've gone probably going to be the top paid at his position, and I went for linebacker Nick Bolton. I was a massive Nick Bolton fan when he came out of Missouri 4 years ago. He's going to be a free agent. Obviously, he was picked up in the second round of the draft 4 years ago by Kansas City Chiefs. Nick, if you're listening, you've won 2 Super Bowls. All being well, you're going to win a third. You don't need to go and sign for a contender, mate. Come somewhere where you can, rebuild, cement your legacy. He's only 24 years old as well. I think what's Bobby O? Is he 28? I want to say. Or is he 26?
Good question.
I'm going to give it. I think Bobby Kerrick is 28, and I'm one of these people who I admire what Michael McFadden's done, but I want to upgrade on Michael McFadden. Michael McFadden is an okay rotational linebacker or a depth linebacker, but starting next to Bobby Okereke, bring in Nick Bolton. He's had a great career at Kansas City Chiefs. Like I say, he's won 2 Super Bowls. All being well, it's going to be 3, as painful as that is for us all to kind of hope for and wish for. He's not going to come cheap, but, like I say, you're getting a 24-year-old linebacker who can kind of do a little bit of everything. He's great in the run. He can drop into coverage when he's needed to. He's not a bad blitzer either. And, you can solidify that linebacker core and this run D that you kind of hoped to build last year. You can kind of start to improve now by bringing in a linebacker of Nick Bolton's caliber.
Yeah, I totally agree with the kind of consensus around Micah McFadden. Obviously, we've also got Darius Musau in there as a rotational piece to help out as well. So, yeah, the one thing that we've always had are average linebackers, I guess. And then Bobby came in and in his first season was like the first linebacker we'd had in years that really sort of set the world alight. It would be really nice to have 2 of those for the first time in God knows how long. So yeah, I think that's a good shout. I guess the only trepidation, as you said, is can we prize him away from Kansas?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good player. I think Kansas can't afford to pay everyone, though. They've got an expensive team already, and that's like paying people like Kelsey and Mahomes. They can't pay everyone. That's why some. But then we saw Drew Tranquil, who went and had a look around free agency last year, and then ended up going back. But I think he'd be a great addition. Like Shane said, he can blitz, he can cover, he can do a little bit of everything. Doesn't excel at one thing as such, but he's just very, very good at everything. And when you got someone like that next to Bobby O, I think it'd be a great foil. And the defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen, would definitely try and get the best out of him.
And I know full well, Kev was a Nick Bolton fan.
Damn right I was. He was Mizzou, wasn't he? Yeah.
Well, there we have it. That is a taster, I guess, of the free agency content that will be coming up over the next few weeks. Just as Shane rightly said to me earlier when we were talking, it's really difficult to choose players for tonight because we didn't want to choose them because we've got the next 2 weeks coming up and there are players that we want even more than these to come to the Giants. So make sure you tune in over the next couple of weeks while we talk about that. Now, unfortunately, that is all the time we have this week. However, we will be back a week from today, next Tuesday, as myself, Dan and Shane try and emulate mine and Kev's success from last year and rebuild the Giants via the free agency and the draft. Boys, anything to add before we go?
No, as you know, it's been good sort of starting to get into the draft a little bit more and talking free agency, and obviously, kind of once the worst Super Bowl in history is out of the way, everyone's always going to be on free agency and looking at kind of what players are going to be coming to the New York Giants to hopefully turn this franchise around.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it will be an awful Super Bowl, so oh well. But it's funny how, none of us chose defensive tackle or quarterback for the old free agency and stuff like that. So actually, I'm a bit gutted I cannot be on next week because it's fixing the Giants is what we all want to do, isn't it? It's like it's kind of like it's not our money, it's not our picks that we're wasting. So that's always good fun. But no, like you said, Craig, a little taster of like free agency and draft stuff, and there'll be plenty more coming in the next month or two.
So an interesting thing I've just noticed is that we went safety, cornerback, wide receiver, guard, linebacker, and running back. So without talking to each other, we picked 6 different positions across 6 different players there. So it just shows that we know how many holes the Giants have that we need to end up filling this offseason. Now, as always, remember to like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already. You can also hit the bell to be notified of when we are live. As I said earlier, days might swap as we go through the off season. But notified if you click that notification bell, at least you will know when we do go live. Obviously, if you aren't already, follow us in the socials that are in the description down below, regardless of the platform you are listening on. My thanks, as ever, go to Shane and to Kev for joining me tonight. All of you watching and listening, we are signing off. Until next time, let's go Giants.